Hey, welcome to David Talks About Tech and Stuff. Hi, I'm David. This is episode 3. We're talking to a good buddy of mine, Phillip Slaughter, today. We've known each other for a few years, but this man, what's spectacular about him is the way that he loves people and he loves his family, and he's also really, really talented at capturing just the essence of a moment in a photograph. And so, yeah, well, we had a pretty good conversation. We talked about a lot of things, but stay tuned. Let's meet Phillip. But yeah, man. So, what you and your friends do today?
We went to the pool. We went swimming.
Went to the pool?
Yeah.
Like your neighborhood pool?
Their neighborhood pool.
Okay.
Yeah. So some friends of ours from our community group, they've got a real nice pool with slides and all that kind of stuff. So they invited us over.
Yeah.
Whole fam got to enjoy some time outside.
Did you grow up in a place like this?
I grew up in Richardson. So very different, like older style neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we did not have a community pool. I mean, rec center pool type of thing, but we didn't go very often. So a little different than the Frisco vibe, but close, I guess.
Yeah. So you really don't know anything but DFW. Where'd you go to college?
Went to school at Texas A&M University Commerce,
Okay.
which is East Texas.
Right.
Got my degree in radio and television.
Really?
And so I always told my classmates that I had a face for radio and a voice to be a mime. So being behind a microphone is not the most comfortable thing for me. Being behind a camera, though, that's a lot more comfortable for me.
On the other side?
On the other side,
Right.
behind a camera.
Right.
So spent most of my life in kind of North Texas area.
Yeah, Commerce is definitely a different place than Richardson and
Very
Dallas.
different.
Yeah, that's your small town experience right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Was that like culture shock?
No, not too much. So I was homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
So all the way through high school was homeschooled, kind of a smaller community of people, even though we're in a big city, right? Kind of a smaller community of people. And then the first couple of years of college, I went to Collin College in Plano. So that was obviously like a big college feel for me, coming from a homeschooler.
Right.
And then I worked at Sky Ranch camps out in East Texas and fell in love with East Texas, small town feel.
Okay.
And so going to Commerce from that kind of community of people was very comfortable for me. Going to Commerce, a little bit different, but it was good. And I got connected pretty quickly with a church out there and really good, solid believers, and just found a community for myself there out
That's
in
awesome.
Commerce, which was
That's
good.
awesome.
So if I didn't have that, I think it would have been a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
I think the people you hang out with in college really make or break your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went twice because I had such a good experience the first time.
Heck yeah.
With the people. I was very, very, straight laced, but I very much enjoyed people.
Sure.
So instead of drinking and, doing what everybody else is doing, I just stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning, keeping people up and not attending my classes the next day. Went to a school in a small South Arkansas town that had nothing that was open past 9:00, but Texarkana was an hour away.
Yeah.
So we could go to Texarkana and, there's an IHOP in Texarkana and that was the place to be. So very, very weird experience, but good, and had really good people around me. And then I dropped out with a 1.9 and got married.
Heck yeah.
A few years later, I went back and brought that up to like a 3 point something over like a year and a half to finish out a degree. But yeah, man, very much small town. I grew up very small town. So it was like small to bigger to bigger to bigger to here.
Yeah.
And so this is like the biggest place I've ever lived. And honestly, the Dallas Metroplex is one of the biggest places to live.
Sure.
But yeah, so you went straight out of college. Did you go like straight to taking pictures for a living? Or?
Yeah.
Dude,
so
that is
in
incredible.
college, I worked as an intern for Encore Electric Delivery. At the time when I first started, it was TXU Electric Delivery. And then decommissioning happened. And so, not decommissioning, whatever it was. The TXU was not allowed to also own the wires that are in the North Texas area. Right. So it became Encore Electric Delivery, worked there in their communications department. So shooting photos and videos of like safety videos, corporate events and stuff like that. Not something I really wanted to get into, but the Lord had kind of led me into it. And so it just kind of like happened that way.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this and I enjoy it. So I might as well stick with it.
Yeah.
And then, so I did internship with that for a few years. And then, right after I graduated, Bible study leader that I had, she said, hey, I want to bring video into our mix of marketing. Can you come on as an intern? I said, yeah, let me graduate first and we'll do that.
Oh,
wow. Started as an intern, worked the whole summer.
And where was that?
This is at Texas Back Institute.
Okay.
And, worked as an intern, and I've been there for 13 years now.
Okay.
As a full-time employee, not as an intern, which is
so
good.
You've been taking pictures of people's backs for 13 years.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. But like, I mean, you're doing a lot of like freelance stuff as well.
Right.
That, like you're really busy with the freelance stuff. Like I had no idea you had a real job.
Yeah.
Like I just thought that you made a living off of like taking pictures of like,
that would be fun to do,
sporting events and city happenings and all of that.
I think I always tell people that I have probably a bit of undiagnosed ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to jump back and forth between all these different gigs and all these different things kind of fits well with my personality.
Right.
And so I really enjoy it because I get to do something different every day.
Yeah.
Some days I'm in surgery, taking video of a doctor doing back surgery.
Okay.
And then the next day I'm taking like corporate headshots. Yeah. Or last night I shot a video of a concert for the city of Frisco.
Right.
And so all sorts of different things. Pretty cool. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
But all with a camera, and that's what I enjoy doing.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. So like at what point did you really like find that love?
That's a good question. So a little backstory. My dad is a writer producer. He did a lot of that stuff. And growing up, I saw how hard he worked and how much time that took to work in production.
Yeah.
And I always told myself, like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do something where I can make lots of money and don't have to work that much and blah, blah, blah. And then in college, the Lord kind of said, no, I think that's what you're going to do. And I said, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. I really kind of fell in love with taking pictures, though. Junior high school-ish, my parents got me a used SLR film camera at a garage sale. Mm-hmm. It was like in 1971.
And how old was this? How old were you then?
I was junior high-ish. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what I've been.
13, 14.
Yeah, 13, 14, something like that. 1971-ish Konica
Holy cow.
camera.
Yeah, you're not that old.
Manual everything. Right. Yeah. So I mean like $25 at a garage sale type of thing. But they gave it to me and that was mine.
Yeah.
And I got to take pictures. And I think the thing that I really love about taking pictures is that, like, I love the experiences that I have and I want to share those with other people. And that's the best form that I can do that. As a visual person, like that's the best way that I can share something with somebody.
Yeah.
And so for me to have my own ability to do that just gave me like this unlocked freedom to share my art with others.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of artsy and creative, but this kind of gave me a very quick and easy avenue to like share multiple experiences with people. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's like the other day I saw a picture that you took with the fireflies.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like extended exposure, or I'm not sure I'm using correct grammar, but you can, or correct vernacular, if you will. But like that was capturing something that was like natural art.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. And then like, I know you take a lot of headshots, you do like the professional things, but the things that you shoot that really stand out to me are like, dude, you're always taking pictures of your kids. Mm-hmm. You're taking pictures of your wife, and it's never posed. It's always of them in some type of scenario where there's something going on and you can read an expression on a face and understand who it is. Yeah. And like that to me is so much more beautiful than like anything else from a photography standpoint, is like when you're capturing like the essence of a moment.
Right.
And drawing that out. And so like that's what I want to be doing with a camera. I'm very, very amateur. I really like just learned how the exposure triangle works. So I'm like, oh, okay, I have 3 knobs I can turn.
Yeah.
And I know where to be on these knobs for certain things. So I'm starting to play with that a little bit. But that back to the art of it, you know, like for a long time, I'm like, pictures are pictures.
Yeah.
There's that's not art, right? But at the end of the day, wow, cinema.
You got this.
I'm gonna try.
I believe in you.
Cinematography.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
yes.
the one.
Yeah, I'm from North Louisiana, dude. That's a big word there. Cinematography, photography, you know, can be very, very artful in just capturing that moment.
Yeah.
And like I think that life is art, right? And the experience is art. So I have a whole spiel that I go through around like art. Like I'm a fan of music.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of you know, graphic art and just all types of art. I mean, just a huge fan of art in general. But I'm absolutely not a fan of a product that imitates art. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you look at like music, for example, like, okay, cool. Like hip hop, right? So hip hop, came up late 70s, early 80s, became, you know, mainstream throughout the 80s and then into the 90s. And really in that late 80s, early 90s, hip hop was very much art because it was about experience.
Right.
And it was about expressing an experience.
Oh, yeah.
And then fast forward to today where it's been taken over by record industries and a lot of it is very product driven. Not all of it.
Sure.
But a lot of it's very product driven. And it's about how can I create a product that people want to buy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What words can I say? What buzzwords can I say that is going to cause a, what words can I say that I can put in this song that is going to make the A&R happy enough to push my music out and make it popular,
right?
So where it makes more money. And so it takes the art out of what's something that's very artful. And like worship music is one of the biggest things. Like you look at like 90s CCM music, it was mostly product, right? And so
they're following the algorithm, right?
Right.
What's going to get me money? Right?
Absolutely. And so like that's a thing that kills me about music. So I'm very eclectic in taste because I can see, hey, this is art because this is real. And what I've noticed is that the art of life and the art that's put in the emotion that's put into music and the emotion that's put into photography or captured in photography or in, you know, visual arts or acting or whatever, it's impossible to experience art or portray art or to create art without some experience of pain or suffering. Because even joy, I'm rambling. This is
good.
Like even joy as an emotion is, you can't know joy without knowing the opposite of joy.
Well, you look at most of the artists, you know, specifically painters back in the day who have their artwork in the most, you know, fabulous museums. Most of those people were tormented throughout their life with, you know, mental illness or just pain or poverty. And that's how they express themselves. And now we celebrate them when it probably came out of pain, you know?
Absolutely.
It's an emotion that they're able to put into a product.
It's that. And like you look at blues music. Right. Like blues music is very much rooted in like North Mississippi Delta, Memphis, Tennessee. Even like the St. Louis blues movement and the Chicago blues movement is rooted back into the pain from that area. It's like race riots happened in Memphis and there was a migration up the Mississippi. Same thing happened in St. Louis. There's another migration up the Mississippi. And so all of that music along the Mississippi River is really rooted in the pain of the Mississippi Delta.
And it connects all of the people that understand that pain.
Right.
That that have experienced it, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that and you may not be as like blues is a place where I really, really just like, I gravitate to it because of the artfulness of it.
Yeah.
And so there's artists out there that I'm like, you actually don't know any of this. You're just singing words.
Right.
And it's very obvious. It's so, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, I love art, but I hate the pain and suffering that has to go into someone's life to create beautiful art. So anyways.
So curveball of a question here.
Okay.
Do you think that that's what makes Taylor Swift so popular? Because if you listen to her songs, there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, I'm hurt, and their pain and suffering. And that's an emotion that a lot of people can connect with. That being said, it's hard to feel bad for somebody that's worth like $1 billion.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the most painful thing she's experienced is she signed a record deal, and then the record company did what they said they were going to do and kept most of the money. And I feel terrible for her, but no, dude, she's 100% product. Yeah. 100% product. And yeah, it's like her, like Drake. Yeah. Drake is like the Canadian Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake. Like, dude, you rap about all this stuff, but you grew up very much upper middle class. And
so that's one thing that I've been thinking about lately is the whole Drake Kendrick Lamar feud thing, which it's hard to feel bad for either one of them. Mm-hmm. I like Kendrick Lamar because he puts a lot of like emotion, and he's very poetically talented, mm-hmm. right, in the music that he puts together. And but the music that they're putting together now, that's a feud back and forth. Mm-hmm. One, people like controversy, right? Oh, yeah. But two, it kind of almost harkens back to the 90s rap hip hop era where people were feuding in songs and people were talking about what's happening on the streets. Yeah. This is the pain and suffering that we're dealing with. So we're going to sing about it. Right. Like you listen to some of the stuff back in the day, Tupac and Dr. Dre, and they're singing about like actual events and responding to other people's rumors and things like that. Yeah. And that's what connected people, like, oh, I feel that. I understand that.
Dude, this is going to get me like banned from the entire world. But there is a progression to Tupac's image from pre-Death Row to Machiavelli. Mm. And I'm not so sure that like Tupac made great music, and I love it. Yeah. Like I absolutely like really enjoy all of it, but there's definitely an element of product creation from the point of, hey, this kid's got talent, and we can use him, mm-hmm. and we can make him really popular because we have one of the greatest producers on our payroll that's ever lived. Yeah. And so I'm curious if, I'm curious as how much of that was fabricated. Yeah. And like even the feud, like how much of that was fabricated. And I don't think either one of them took actual shots at each other. I think that was all, I don't know. It was a mess, man. It was a mess, but the same thing's going on like with Kendrick and Drake. But parallel, because now the WNBA is relevant. And I'm buying into it.
What is that again?
Exactly. Now the WNBA is relevant. And evidently I'm buying into it because it's hitting my Facebook algorithm like crazy. So I see all this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff. And I'm like, this is fabricated. This is absolutely, dude. It's, they're doing their best to make a, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. It's just the same recipe over and over and over and over again. And I mean, that's the same thing as like movies. Like if you look at movie scripts and the stories that are told in movies, there is, for every movie that's made, there is the same story or a type of that, that Shakespeare wrote or Shakespeare wrote. So it's,
people love controversy.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's like there's comedy and there's tragedy, and every story has been told, mm-hmm. and you were just retelling the same stories over and over again. So I don't know, man. I don't know. There's there's not any, there's not, I'm not saying that, movies aren't art, but, the things that people relate to are, they don't change over time. So,
there's nothing new under the sun.
There
right?
you go. There you go.
So what would you say? What is art?
I mean, art is an expression of life. Art is an expression of motion, not motion, emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the E there. Yeah. Louisiana again. I wasn't privileged enough to have that Richardson education.
Man,
you were homeschooled.
Louisiana and Arkansas.
Dude, yeah. I was born in Arkansas, and I was there for, I never lived in Arkansas until I lived 1 year there in 6th grade. And then I moved there probably when I was like 20. I went to college there.
What school did you go
to? Southern Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. Home of the Mule Riders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We drove through there a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
We were headed to Tennessee.
And I guess we
drove through
Magnolia to El Dorado.
Well, we didn't drive through there, but we drove.
You saw the sign. Yeah.
And then we stayed in Hot Springs for a night.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that was the thing that was kind of a shock when I got here is like growing up North Louisiana, Hot Springs was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then South Arkansas, it was really accessible. So we went all the time. And then moved to Central Arkansas, lived in Conway for, about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And in Conway, like Hot Springs is maybe an hour away.
Sure.
You just drive through Little Rock and go. But at that point, it's like kind of old. And it's like, this is really not that great of a place. And then we come here and it's like, everybody, when they're going away for a weekend, they're either going to Broken Bow or they're going to Hot Springs. Yeah. And I was like, both of those places are crap. What are y'all doing? Cause I'm used to living in the small town and that's just another small town with some character to it. Yeah, that's cool. But 30 minutes and I'm done. Coming here and like when we lived in those places, it's like, what city can we go and discover? Right.
Yeah.
And living here, it's like, how the heck do I get away from all of this? And so it's like, it's refreshing to go to the slower places now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
Well, it's nice when you have grass.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
We live in a place where there's plenty of grass. Frisco does a great job of taking care of green spaces. And so I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. That's one thing we really like too. It's just being able to have some land to put your feet down on some grass. And enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah. These young cats I work with, man, they all want to live in like uptown. And it's like, no, that's terrible.
I get that. I mean, like when I worked for Encore Electric Delivery, we worked in downtown, like the heart of downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take the train in or my boss would pick me up and drive me in and like, oh man, it'd be so nice if I could live right there.
Yeah.
Just walk to work and you got the coffee shop there. You got the restaurants right there. You know, the night scene.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like out of my early 20s, it's like,
right.
No, I don't, that doesn't appeal to me.
Right. That's like, man, people move to Austin and I'm like, yeah, it must be nice to be 20 something. There's no way I can live in Austin right now. There's no way.
I think it just takes the right kind of person. I mean, like tons of people live in New York and they love it. Because everything is available right there. And you have a community of people that all live off of those amenities that you have, right? Yeah. And so it really is, again, back to it. It's about the people you live around and the community that you have there.
Yeah.
But it's just, that's not for me.
Yeah. So New York is a different story too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because New York traffic, like I couldn't drive in New York. I had to ride in an Uber. I was up there last July and flew into LaGuardia, took an Uber to Midtown Manhattan, say kind of Midtown Manhattan, Times Square area. Yeah. Incredible time. Was there for like a trade show type thing. And, the expo conference show, whatever, was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks away. And just walk there, it was like 0.7 miles.
Sure.
It was like just walk. Weather was great.
Yeah.
It's probably not like that in the winter. But what I noticed one thing that was annoying about it was like as I'm walking down the street, nobody made eye contact.
Yeah.
I made eye contact on the street 3 times with people, and they were all like, I had my long beard at the time, and everybody was looking at me. We made eye contact over the beard. So that was cool. But the thing that I did notice is that everybody was moving, and that satisfied my need to be moving.
Yeah.
And like, I can't stand inefficiency. Like, my wife hates that about me. It kills her, because I get really, really grumpy if stuff isn't moving properly.
Yeah.
And New York City is one of the most efficient places I've ever been in my life. And I think I could trade off the interpersonal niceties that you have with strangers on the street for efficiency.
Yeah.
Because when you walk into the stores, they're just like any other people.
Uh-huh.
And it's like they're hospitable. They're about what they're trying to do. So I don't know, man. I love New York. I really do. I've only been once, and so I might change at some point. Now, the stage of life that you and I are in, there's no way I could live in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, because I have kids.
Right.
Like, if I didn't have kids, dude, I would love it.
Crazy expensive.
Yeah, crazy expensive. Yeah. And like, kids. Like, I'm not sending my kids out on the street with like 1,000 other people. Right. I get nervous sending them outside here, and I live in like one of the safest suburbs in the world. Just like it's a different experience, man. But I guess if you're raised there, then your kids are more ready for that type of thing.
That's true.
So
I don't know.
So you've lived in Richardson.
Yep.
You went to school in commerce, and now you're in Frisco.
Yep.
Just stayed around here.
Stayed here. Yeah. My wife is from south of Houston area, kind of in between Houston, Galveston area. Okay. And so I graduated a year earlier than she did. I got a job. We were kind of on the path of, want to get married. We got married her last year of college, or we got engaged her last year of college. She graduated 2 weeks later. We got married.
Okay.
And so it was just an easy transition for her to move.
Man, I bet that was stressful for her, man.
Yeah, she handles it well though.
Yeah, man.
She was in the honors college, and so she got a lot of her like harder stuff done the first 3.5 years, and the last like semester was kind of like
chill,
knocking extra things out and writing her dissertation and all that kind of stuff or whatever.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and then she started nursing school 2 weeks after that. So,
nice,
just like nonstop,
man. And y'all were like what, 22, 23?
She was 21. I was a couple years older than her.
Yeah.
I was 25.
Yeah. Kim and I are right at 3 years apart.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay. Cool. So you guys met in college then?
We did.
Yeah. And she's from like a place with a personality.
Yeah. I mean, South Houston, between Houston and Galveston. So you've got that like Houston big city feel, but Houston's very different from Dallas. But also like halfway between Houston and Galveston. So she's got that like, I want to be outside, maybe at the beach or like swimming all day kind of vibe as well.
Yeah.
She also grew up doing like FFA and 4-H and raised chickens and pigs. And so she's a weird mix of like all of these different things, all of these different skills and abilities that like all into one package. And
so if you wanted to like start homesteading, you guys would be good.
We watch all kinds of homesteading shows.
Dude, I love watching homesteading shows, man. Absolutely.
We have a garden and all that kind of stuff.
That's all. What do you grow?
She does sourdough. So
no way.
Yeah.
And she works, or is she staying at home?
She stays at home.
Okay.
Homeschool mom.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, homeschool, man.
Yeah.
Homeschool. How'd you like it?
So the first 2 years I was homeschooled, it was difficult for me to like break out of my shell and to socialize. After that, it was great. Richardson at the time had one of the largest homeschool organizations in the United States. And so this was like 1,500 families in our organization. And so, people always say, well, how do you socialize if you're keeping your kids in the house all day or whatever? But that wasn't the way we saw it. I was a part of a homeschool Boy Scout troop, homeschool baseball team. There was also 4-H and several other organizations that we, kind of were a part of. And so it wasn't like I'm just stuck at home inside all day.
Yeah.
It was, hey, we got to finish up our schoolwork so we can go do this activity with our friends type of thing. So, so I don't feel like I missed out on the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was good for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's the best decision for everybody.
Right.
And everybody's got to make their own decisions on what's best for them and their kids.
Yeah.
But it worked out for me. We chose homeschooling like right before COVID hit. And so it was kind of one of those things that like, well, I guess we're glad we did it because, a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon, and it was just easier for us to be at home instead of having to make decisions about, masks and vaccines and all the other stuff that was going on in the world at that point. We just didn't have to,
right?
Because we were at home, which was nice.
We were all homeschooling at that point. So,
exactly.
Yeah. That had an interesting effect on kids too, man. It's like, we're hiring people now, and like our interns that are coming in every summer, like their kids that, had to do their senior year, their junior year of high school with those limitations. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But so you mentioned that you started homeschooling at a certain point. Did you go to a public school prior to that?
Yeah. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I went to public school.
Yeah.
Second grade, I really suffered. So first grade, I had a great teacher, Mrs. Russell.
Right.
I remember her name. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Second grade, teacher wasn't maybe as great. I don't want to like dock her for whatever she did or didn't do, because I'm sure a lot of it had to do with my learning abilities. Mm-hmm. Looking back now and what we know now, I probably was undiagnosed like dyslexic and ADHD. Mm-hmm. And so like maybe my learning style wasn't fit to what she was teaching.
Yeah.
And so second grade, like I just digressed. Like I was going backwards with my reading. And so my parents were really concerned, and some of the other stuff that was just going on with the school district, they're like, hey, why don't we try homeschooling? And being more one-on-one with my mom, it just kind of helped with my learning abilities. You know what I mean? And
Makes sense.
It just kind of made sense for us.
Yeah.
First and second grade, went to public school. So I understand what like the Tuesday pizza lunch, cafeteria thing is all about. I can still like taste it,
Gosh,
when you think about it. So I had a little bit of that experience, but then homeschooling was great after that. And then I graduated in high school through our homeschool organization.
Okay.
Class of 44 kids.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
I had a class of 69, but
that
was at a public school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get the educator thing. It's like I had undiagnosed ADHD for about 36 years. Mm-hmm. So I found out when I was 36 that it was a real thing. Went ahead and get diagnosed, and it's helped tremendously that I did, and I've learned a lot more about it. And had a lot of built-in coping mechanisms, some good, some bad. Mm-hmm. But man, it's like same real experience, and well, not the same, but similar experiences. Like I did really, really well, like kindergarten through second grade. Then I had a really close death in the family, like that year that rocked my entire world.
Oh yeah.
And it's like my third grade teacher was, dude, it was like, I didn't do my homework because the attention I was getting around education wasn't there anymore.
Sure.
And so we got a paddling every day in class because in 1990, probably had to be like 94, 95. Okay. That was still the way to do things in Louisiana. And then if I got in trouble at school, I got in trouble at home. So it was just like this constant thing. I was like, I'm not doing this. And it was like this huge, the ADHD world, there's this thing called executive dysfunction. Mm-hmm. It was like, there's this huge executive dysfunction around homework. Like I could sit and stare at it for 6 hours and not do it. Yeah. And that persisted throughout, all the way through college. And like I failed English 3. Because like I didn't do my homework. I aced every test I got, but her homework was weighted at like 70-something%. Oh my gosh. And I was like, woman, obviously I know what this is. Right. But
you've proven it.
I prove it every time because I test on this stuff. Like I was likely gifted. I just had such executive dysfunction that like dude, this work is monotonous. I don't need it because I know this stuff. Yeah. My highest score on my ACT was in English. But this one teacher decided that I needed to fail English 3 because I didn't do homework.
Yeah.
Because, where I grew up, we were training people to be good workers and not
educated.
Not educated people that think and go and do awesome things. So yeah, I kind of hope she watches this so that she knows.
What was her name?
Yeah, definitely making a lot more money than she is now. Yeah. But that's beside the point.
That's good.
But yeah, that happened. And so I struggled through school with undiagnosed cognitive issues. Mm-hmm. And yeah, dude, I'm in a job role now where, man, it's like everything I touch is exciting. I understand who I am. I understand how to relate to my job world and how to really just grasp the things that are in me and just steer myself well enough to where it's like, all right, cool. Still struggle getting monotonous tasks done, but most of my job is really regurgitating hyper-focused things and hyper-focusing on learning something and then being able to tell a story about it and explain complex things in a simple, engaging way. So love what I do, and
you're an artist in a way. So and you use English to do it, right?
Yeah. Use English. Yeah. But no, dude, I really do feel like I'm at a place where science and art meet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the whole sales world is a place where science and art meet. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a science to like psychology and how people operate and how you go through processes.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, there's something very artful about emotionally connecting with someone, whether or not they realize it.
Yeah.
Like emotionally connecting with very logic-minded people. So it's pretty fun. And there's something artful to that. I don't know where I was going with that.
How important is it though? You mentioned a minute ago that like you're in a good place where you know your job, you know who you are. How important is that to like have a firm foundation of like what your identity is? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so many of us are kind of struggling with that. Whether it be like, who am I as a person? Who am I as a worker? Who am I as a, whatever XYZ in my relationship with whoever, my friends or spouse or whatever. I think that's so important for us to know. And one thing that I've been kind of harping on lately is like, in our culture, we don't do a good enough job of teaching kids, like, here's who you are and reinforcing that. Like you look at the Jewish culture and they have bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs of like, this is the point where we're celebrating, we're coming together as a community and celebrating you are becoming an adult. Right. And from now on, we expect you to be an adult.
Yeah. My oldest is turning 13 in a month.
So, right. Yeah. I mean, like the Latino community, like the quinceañeras, like this is the point we're all going to come to celebrate and you are going to be treated as an adult now.
Right.
We don't have that in our culture.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we get these kids who like,
we do have that. It's called a 21st birthday where we go get our friends drunk.
Well, that's true. But even that, like,
it's terrible.
When you turn 16, you can drive. So you have a little bit of freedom.
Right.
When you turn 18, you can vote and smoke.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit more freedom. And then you're 21, you can drink and make your own decisions. And then there's also like gray areas in there of like what you can choose and not choose to do with your body, piercings and tattoos and things like that. Like,
but that's all like legal things and cultural things, which is legal influences culture.
Like kids in high school and college, and they get out of college and they come to work and they're like still acting like kids, and we don't understand why.
Yeah.
But it's because we've never treated them or told them that they're an adult.
Yeah.
We've never told them like, here's who you are now. You're going to be expected to act this way.
Yeah.
And we don't want you to go back and act the other way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's some value to that. And I've thought the same thing. It's like I was talking to Kim about Boston's 13th birthday party, which he's opted. He's like, I think I want to take a trip instead of have a birthday party.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, okay, cool.
Maturity there.
So we're going to have to figure that out. And honestly, the expense is about the same. But thinking about the fact that he's turning 13, like there's definitely some value to, hey, you're at this point in your life and you do have additional responsibilities. So he does a really good job of helping with his brother and sister right now. Nice. He definitely has higher expectations in a lot of ways, even versus his peers. And he knows that, and he performs well. And when he doesn't, he's met with fairness and grace, generally. Yeah.
And that's probably something that y'all reinforce, though.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like, y'all see that in him and you say, hey, good job.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
And also I'm like, dude, you're being a bonehead right now.
Yeah.
And I might even let a foul word pass every now and then just for a little emphasis. It's like, hey, you're old enough to hear this word now.
Yeah. But you're treating him more like an adult in that way.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And
absolutely. But at the same time, giving him the grace that, hey, you're my son.
Sure.
And two, it's like, I also know that you don't have this figured out yet. Yeah. And you're learning this now because you don't have this figured out, and I'm here to teach you.
Yeah.
And going back to something you said a while ago, it was like that identity piece. Like I think that there is confidence in understanding who you are because of how you're wired.
Yeah.
Understanding the I guess natural inclinations of your personality and that type of thing. And then there's a total different set of things of like understanding your values. And like I feel like understanding your values is a personal journey, just as understanding what the pluses and minuses of your personality traits are, right? And so like I can teach my child my values and teach them why I value the things that I value. And it's very important that I do that. But for my children to really become good human beings and productive human beings, they've got to own a set of values.
It has to become their own.
Right. And so like, I feel like we can teach values all day long, but if they don't own those values, which we can't control what they own and don't own, only they can do that. Yep. So we have to exhibit those values and teach those values and teach why, and not just, this is what you're going to do because I said so, because it's 1995 and that's how we work. Right. But more of, it's like Boston, man, he's turning 13. So he's learning, like you walk into like we walked into Chick-fil-A the other day, the one over on Lebanon, and it's got the two doors. So you walk in and then there's another set of doors. So I was like, Boston, if I'm holding this door, then you go through first and you hold the next door. Yep. Right. And then he's learned that like, hey, when you're walking into a door with a lady, then you're going to, if it's a clear building where you can see the inside, then you bring the door open and allow her to go in first. But if you can't see what's inside, then you go in first, look around, scan the horizon, and then allow her to come in. Yeah. So like we're going, and those are like very minuscule things, but somewhat important.
Super important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Especially once you have kids. Yeah. So we're constantly kind of going through those things to teach, like, hey, these are things that I value, and this is why I value these things. These are why they're done. And if we're not teaching why, then there's never going to be an ownership. Yep. But like, I don't know about you, but like most of my values are crap that I learned along the way. Yeah. It's not, people probably told me the same stuff when I was 10, but I learned along the way because of experiences. Yeah. So I don't know, man. And that goes like, that's always my counterpoint to like homeschooling is like the experience that, and even dude, public school here is utopian to me, right? I was like, it's like kids don't fight anymore, you know? And bullying is a total different thing than it used to be.
Yeah.
And so it's like the experiential knowledge that you used to get from public school, you don't even get that anymore.
Yeah.
You get like, so it's like I'm concerned about, I think all the time is like, I'm raising my kids in a suburban, whether you look at, depending on how you look at it, I'll either raising them in a suburban hell or I'm raising them in a suburban paradise. But either way, they're not going to understand what life is outside of this place. So how do I keep them rooted in understanding the experience that other people have? Anyways, I've been talking for like 20 minutes now. I feel like
no. I feel like that's a tough one to answer though. Like, because our parents would probably say the same thing about our generation versus their generation. And the previous generation probably said the same thing of like, oh, it's tougher for me and you got to learn how to be tough and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we adapted.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it's one of those things that like, I want my kids to understand and experience the same things I did when I was a kid. But at the same time, like the world has changed so much that I can try, but is that going to prepare them for what other kids are doing now? You know, I don't know. Yeah. I think going back to values and for their understanding why, they can take those values and adapt it to whatever situation they're in now. And so, it's one of those things that like we can only control so much, but at the end of the day, like we kind of have to let them do their own thing and hope and pray that the Lord will like make sure they're safe and keep them on whatever path.
There's this letting go point of like understanding that you don't control their safety. Right. You are responsible for stewarding, but you don't control anything. Yeah. Right. You're responsible, but you're not in control. Yeah. And so like, that's a weird dichotomy, right? Of being responsible for what happens, but also not being in control of what happens and accepting both of those things. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Gosh, I had a thought in my mind, but it did this thing where it just went right out the window.
Happens a lot.
It happens. It's probably that undiagnosed ADHD, man.
Still undiagnosed.
Gosh, man. What finally got me to do it, go and get a diagnosis, was two things, really. One is like I have, like when I'm having a tough time, I have like aphasia really bad, like where I will substitute words or I'll forget a word. And like, I was like, man, I feel like I got concerned because I'm like, I feel like, I'm a 70-year-old dementia patient, like it was really bad.
Should run for president.
Sorry. We are so screwed.
I'm sorry.
We are so screwed.
We need to edit that out.
No, we don't. We don't need to edit that out. I'm voting for Kennedy.
There you go.
Because I can't. I just can't anymore. I haven't. I've never voted for a Democrat or a Republican for a national office.
Okay.
So that's my virtue signal there is I'm better than everybody else because I don't do that. But no.
Well, you can always say that's not my president.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm not saying that all of my choices would have been better. But I think there's something insane about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Yeah. Like, I think that's, some guy was like, that's the definition of insanity. I think that was like Einstein or somebody of that nature. Somebody smart. But we literally have the same choice and people are going to do the same thing. We're going to elect one of the presidents from the last 8 years that everybody would agree, or not everybody, but 75% of people would agree is like, this really wasn't ideal. It was better than the other guy, but it wasn't ideal.
It can only get better from here though, right?
No, we keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I may end up having to edit all this off, but nah, dude, it's just like we have a system where we have to pick an evil dude or an evil dude. And there's other options
Yeah.
that aren't as tainted. And I'm not saying Kennedy, his last name is Kennedy, so he's been in politics for a long time, but that may actually, he may be one of the least tainted candidates we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Is because he has a real view from the inside, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know the answer. The guy I did the podcast is coming out like Monday is the guy. So for anybody that's watching, which is probably like nobody, but he said the other day, yesterday actually, he's like, we just need Jesus. All right, we need Jesus to solve this problem. And I'm like, what did he say? Oh, try Jesus. Like that was it, because it was like Toby Nwais, and again I can't pronounce the word. Local African rapper that's got some Christian undertones anyway. He's like, try Jesus, don't try me, because I throw hands.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, you just need to try Jesus. And I was like, man, I agree. I also told him that 1999 was the peak of humanity.
I don't know if I could refute that or not.
Yeah. Name a better year for music and art.
Yeah.
1999 was the peak. The movies.
Yeah.
Every genre, like, and maybe it's just because I was 13 in 1999. But I feel like that was like the peak of humanity. Like, it was the only year when pop music was decent ever. Hip hop was at the top of its entire arc.
Yeah. Who was president in 99?
Ooh, was that Clinton?
I think so.
I think it was Clinton. Yeah. Yeah, because Bush came in 2000 or 2001, so it was Clinton.
Yeah.
And so this was post Lewinsky. I also have another theory that 1995 is when everything started going bad. So I've got a conflict there. Maybe there's an X or an arc somewhere in the middle, but Lewinsky happened in like 94, 95. The OJ trial was 95.
Oklahoma City bombing?
Oklahoma City bombing was right around the same time.
There.
Yeah. Cobain had just killed himself.
Yeah.
And so like grunge music had just died. But I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that 1999 might have been a better year than 95.
What if?
What if it's 97?
No, what if 1999 Y2K? Do you remember?
Yeah.
What if that actually happened?
What if
the world shut down and we are all in the Matrix right now? And so art and humanity lived up to its fullest in 99. And after that, computers have been creating everything else.
So what if,
you didn't know your podcast was turning into this.
This is going to be fun. I've had this thought a few times. Like, it's really easy to explain Calvinism if you believe in simulation theory.
Okay. Yeah. I have to wrap my brain around that one, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Where did this thought come from?
I don't know, man. I just draw parallels from a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, if everything is predestined to happen, then it's like we're all code.
Yeah.
So no, it was like a thought that like crossed my head sometime, and it's like, okay, dude, Quest the other day.
I'm gonna be thinking about this at like 2 a.m. and be like,
yeah,
all of the different things that in my life, it fits.
Dude, I was talking to Quest, my youngest, and he was like, what if we're in a simulation, but he was 5 at this time. He's 6 now, but he was 5 at this time. What if we're in a simulation, but that simulation was caused by another simulation, which was caused by another simulation, and he just keeps going to there's nested simulations for like tens of simulation nesting things. I was like, all right, Quest, where did that simulation come from? Well, it came from another simulation. I was like, but where did that simulation come from? And he's like, I was like, so like at 5, I'm trying to get him to like Aristotle's unmoved mover, right? And uncause calls. And so it's really interesting, man. And it got him thinking. He was like, oh, well, God made the first one. I was like, all right, cool, dude.
Hey, if that's where you start, like,
Yeah,
it's a decent foundation. We can move on from there.
I like it. It's like I have 3 gifted children, and so the way that we approach everything or the way that I approach everything is really with that understanding of they think too hard. They believe what I say, and they think too hard for me to ever tell them a lie.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I want to encourage the search for truth, and tell truth as I believe truth.
Yeah.
But really want to, let them find answers, or rather than just feeding them explanations that I can't work out in my own head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's one of the best things you can do as a parent is like give them truth and give them space to understand it.
Yeah.
Right. And ask questions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you're just giving them, maybe not necessarily falsehood, but you're not giving them the full truth, and then they're going to have to search for it themselves, or just go blindly into the world of like, okay, well, whatever you say.
Right. And like, there's this aspect of holding on to what you believe, like an egg, right? About like things, like hold on firmly to the things that matter most, and have those worked out. But like the supporting things, hold on to like an egg, right? Because if you squeeze too hard, you're going to have crap all over your hand. And if you hold too loosely, you'll just drop everything. Yeah. And so the things that I hold on to like an egg, then those are things that I need them to work out on their own.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I'm 95% confident that this egg is the truth, but there's a 5% chance that I'm wrong. And if I squeeze too hard, then I'm going to get that egg all over me. Weird analogy.
That's good. I hadn't heard that one, but that's good.
But yeah, people do this for a living, man. People do this podcast thing for a living and make money from it, and support their families and such. And I'm like, I don't understand how. This is it's not as easy as it looks.
I think we need it though. I mean, I think we have so much like short form content, or going back to the pre-programmed marketing kind of like stuff that we view on TV.
Yeah.
Whereas this kind of format allows for like openness and conversation, and I'm going to say what I think, but I might be wrong, Yeah. And we don't get a whole lot of that now, especially post COVID. I feel like a lot of the conversations that we have, it's so easy on your phone to just like quick phone call, FaceTime.
Yeah.
Instagram Reels, TikTok, things like that, where it's like 30 seconds and that's all the attention you have.
Yeah.
Not even that anymore. It's like 8 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
But this kind of conversation, I feel like, is what we need to get back to a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much relational quality here.
Right.
You don't get.
I was watching, Russell Brand had, Jordan Peterson on his podcast, and Russell Brand's a character, dude. I've
come to like him a lot.
He's interesting.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine the conversation that him and Peterson were having, where like Russell Brand is like, he's out there and he's smart, but he's not like, it's like you can see the mechanics, like the cogs turning, just like Kanye to an extent, where there's 100 things in the air and he's juggling them all. And if he does it well, then he's able to orchestrate something that's really beautiful. Right. And I feel like Russell Brand is similar. Like, he's got 1,000 things in his head and sometimes getting from, and that's an ADHD thing, right?
Sure.
Is like being able to get from, hey, there's these 10 things, let's connect them all into one thing and deliver that. And it takes a lot of focus and brain power to do it. So, but so he's having a conversation with Jordan Peterson, and they end up talking about like the value of extended interpersonal communications, where I forgot the iterative dialogue, something like that. Yeah. So forget the term that Peterson used, but it's an iterative experience where if we're talking in person and we're not talking online, we're not talking on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, then there's this iterative nature to our relationship where I know this person that's with me. I'm going to talk to this person that's like, there's this unstated social social contract that I respect you, one, because you're a human being, but two, because my life is going to be impacted by the relationship that I have with you. Right. And so there's like this ground level of respect in interpersonal communications, that allows people to communicate a lot better, a lot more respectively, and make progress toward bettering one another. And so like that's the type of thing that happens in communities, that you don't get if you're sitting at home and you're debating somebody on Twitter or Facebook about unreasonable things. That's also fun, but not helpful.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Exactly. No, I think that's true. I mean, like
iterative dialogue.
Iterative dialogue. Yeah.
That may have been the thing that he said.
I feel like I listened to that same podcast, but I can't remember.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. I'm not good with memory. And words.
Yeah.
So
I'm not good with any of those things.
Yeah. No, but I think that's good. I think like you said, I feel like more comes out, and we're able to share this experience with other people through video and audio and stuff like that. And I think it helps encourage other people to like sit down and talk to somebody the same way, you know, whether it's over dinner or coffee or between two microphones or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope that people can do that more.
Yeah. We have this really cool dynamic of how we interact, which is just reels from Instagram constantly. So, you pretty much know when I'm pooping.
I'll have to remember that.
No, that's, I mean, but that's like, I've got probably 10 people that I'm just like, I've got two guys that don't know each other. But I basically take the reels that one of them sends me and send them to the other, like all the time. I was like, oh, well, he sent me this one, so I know this other guy's. I was like, but there's some value to, hey, this reminded me of you, right? Yeah, and that's cool. That's super cool.
There's a word for it, and I can't remember what it's called, but there's a word for the quality of a relationship that you have, and when you're sending that to somebody else, it's like, I'm thinking of you. But two, I trust that this type of comedy will connect with you the same way it connected with me. Yeah. And we have that same kind of bond or, connection. Right. Or level of trust in each other. Yeah. Because I think sometimes the reels that I send to certain people, I would not want to send to other people.
Yeah. It's like A friend group versus B friend group. Yeah. Don't send the A group reel to the B group.
How dark is their humor?
Exactly.
And what can I get away with? Yeah. But that also builds a level of trust, right? Like I trust that you understand that I'm not a terrible person if I send this to you.
Right. Yeah. The things that entertain me are not the things that like I'm a huge fan of understanding diverse cultures. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of beauty. Like I think culture is art. Yeah. Right. And so I love diverse cultures. Right. There's also a whole lot of humor to cultural stereotypes. Yes. Right. Yeah. And so, it's like obviously like going back to like Ayn Rand is like the smallest minority is the individual. And so I want to know the individual in all cases, but, like I'm comfortable enough culturally, that when I meet somebody, they know very quickly that I love them. Yeah. Right. Yeah. but it's like it's like it's similarly, it's like if guy brings his girlfriend and you meet his girlfriend for the first time and you're like, oh my gosh, you don't have a mustache, like that type of thing. It's like there's some level of, if you're a student of anthropology and cultures, and you understand things about other cultures, then it can come off as culturally insensitive, but at the same time, it can also be very culturally sensitive.
Yeah.
Right. If you understand stuff about Indian culture to the point that you understand the differences of Punjab culture from like what's experienced in Hyderabad or somewhere like that, then you have to have been very, very culturally sensitive to actually go and find that information. And there's a line of like humor versus hate.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm sitting here justifying my dark humor.
No, I think that's true though. I mean, I feel like in our culture, we've gotten to the point where we're oversensitive.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to say certain things or think certain things.
Right.
Even though, like, well, how am I supposed to know?
Yeah.
Unless I get close enough to somebody in that culture to understand why that's culturally sensitive, or why I'm not supposed to say that.
Right.
I kind of view it as like, I don't want to push the line of like being insensitive to somebody, but I want to push the line of like, my knowledge is right here. I want to know more about you, more about your culture.
Right.
And so we're going to be friends.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask you things, and I'm going to eat the food that you eat, and I'm going to whatever.
Yeah.
And hopefully understand better
to an extent.
And then
I'm not
make fun of you
anything.
after that. No.
I'm not eating just anything. But yeah, definitely.
And understand the art too. I think it comes back to that too. Like you mentioned blues earlier, like,
yeah,
it's great to listen to.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But until you understand where blues came from, you don't fully understand it.
And there's like this other aspect of like, even like with blues music, it's like, man, I can study like the life of B.B. King.
Yeah.
Right. I can study the life of John Lee Hooker. Right. And understand some of how they got to where they got. But I didn't experience it. Right. I can still appreciate it from outside. It may not match my experience entirely. It may speak to me in a total different way than it's speaking to them. But it's not, it's not my experience.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a line there that's like, it's like, hey, we can relate our experiences to one another without saying that, hey, I have the same experience as you. But yeah, cool. So cameras, photography. I
enjoy it.
Are you like for hire? Like, how do people reach out to you? Like, is that a thing that happens?
Yeah. I do have a website. A lot of my stuff just comes through referrals, from other people. And honestly, like, I'm just so busy that I have not devoted a whole lot of time into like marketing myself.
Yeah.
I used to have a podcast where I would talk about camera stuff and all that. I just ran out of time. You know, I just haven't had a lot of time to like market myself.
Yeah.
In the way that I should.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it.
Is your Instagram open?
It is.
Yeah.
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 I need to get back into like thoughtfully putting stuff out more often on there. But
like dude, this is that art thing.
Yeah.
It's like you can time your stuff to where it hits the algorithm just right, but like, God, what I love about your stuff is it's like, hey, excuse me. It's like, hey, we went and did this thing the other day. I took these pictures.
Yeah.
Here's my beautiful daughter. Here's my beautiful wife. Here's some fireflies. Here's, something that I saw on the way on our vacation. This is the experience that I've had. And it's so authentic and genuine.
Yeah.
And like, you take beautiful pictures. I know you likely do some editing, but it doesn't ever look over edited. You're just really talented at what you do. And like, I think that's really one of the things that I gain from following you on Instagram, is that the things that I see in that media through that medium, however the term goes. Again, Louisiana, is that authenticity, and that's what makes it art. So,
well, I appreciate that. I think that is what I go for. I always try and keep things positive.
Yeah.
Don't talk about politics a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, we can do that.
I do talk about religion.
Yeah.
But I'm also just trying to like, life is art. You mentioned that earlier. Like the things that I see around me are beautiful.
Right.
And so I try and share those with people. But you're right. I used to do every day, 519. I used to post something every day with a certain amount of like, hashtags and keywords and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point I was just like, what is this getting me?
Yeah.
Like I have a decent amount of followers, whatever.
Yeah.
But is that progressing my art the way I want it to?
Yeah.
It came to a point where I was just posting every day to be posting.
Right.
And I realized like my, whatever you call it, my feed or my profile wasn't reflecting the art that I wanted it to.
Yeah.
It was just posting because of the algorithm.
Yeah.
And so I changed that. I was like, hey, I got to post when I want to.
Yeah.
And if I don't have anything to post, I'm not going to post because it's not a reflection of me or the things that I've been doing or my art, you know? And so I've kind of taken a different direction of just when it fits, man. That's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
and I mean, you're busy enough without, and I mean, I don't think that art has a schedule, you know what I mean? And so, and man, that's something that, like as I'm starting this, right? So this will be episode 3. This will actually be episode 4, but it's gonna be labeled as 3 because I had one I had to just basically throw in the trash and made me mad, but that's beside the point. It was a learning experience. It was tuition. But as I'm doing this, it's like I know that if I don't get one out a week, then it's gonna like first off, I don't have much of any benefit in the YouTube algorithm right now.
Yeah.
But
you're building it.
But I'm building it, right? And as I'm building it, like there are certain hobbies that I know that I can't discuss, right? And there's like a certain schedule. Like I'm stressed out because I haven't, I'm not currently, but I have been stressed out because I haven't put up a second episode since I made the first one like 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? And so it's like I've got to get on a schedule and I've got to do better at scheduling. And you've seen how well I communicate. Like it's just like I have to ask somebody to give me their time. And so I mean, hopefully this is fun enough to do it. But at the end of the day, it's still somebody giving me their time. So there's a lot to it. And then like that, the second one I filmed was like, dude, like I was running it through my through the software switcher, and I wasn't recording to SD cards like I am right now. And there's a main stereo output, but there's also a chat back in, and it goes through the same USB. And I didn't mute the chat, so whenever I recorded, it was like a systematic echo, not a room echo, because I could edit the room echo out. But the systematic echo like screwed me up, and there's no way I could get it out. So that was painful, because it was a really good conversation. The one I did yesterday is like I had to use my backup audio because my primary audio was I didn't hit the unmute button on the board, so it's like, well, crap. So I'm gonna make
growing pains, right?
It is, and I want it to be good enough, but not perfect, right? I don't want to have this vibe of like you're at my house right now, like you can look around. It's like it's not nasty, but it's not clean. You know what I mean? Right? It's like we've got chairs over against the wall. We've got pillows thrown here and there. We have kids. We live here.
Yeah, it's a home.
It's life. It's art, right? You look at my office space over there, and you can tell I'm over there quite often.
It's like my office space.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So like, it's never going to be like pristine, but there is like still this want to put out quality, and I think that the quality is just going to have to come from the authenticity of conversation. But yeah, I want to talk to you about camera things, right?
Yeah.
Because you're the guy that I know that knows things. So like the whole exposure triangle thing, right? So you have your aperture, you have ISO, and you have shutter, right?
Yes.
Your shutter speed, right? And so and then if you're filming, you want your frames per second to be at least double your shutter speed, or is it vice versa?
Ish. I mean, it's one of those weird things that like you have to take the artistic side of things and the technical side of things and marry them into one, especially with digital. I always go at it with like, there are rules.
Yeah.
And there are rules until you break them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So typically you want your shutter speed to be at least or around double what your focal length is.
Okay.
So that like this is a 50 millimeter lens.
Okay.
I want to shoot at 1/100th of a second.
Yeah.
To reduce motion blur.
Okay.
You know, that type of thing. But that's a rule that can be broken.
What is ISO?
That's a good question. ISO is the sensitivity of the sensor. So originally it was film.
Yeah.
And it was the sensitivity to light that the film could capture, right? So the higher the number, the more sensitive it was. But the caveat to that is you're introducing more noise or a grain into your exposure.
Okay.
With these cameras now,
you can edit grain out.
You can edit that out pretty easily. It's still there.
Yeah.
But you can, and you know, nowadays people want to look like film, and so they want to introduce. You can turn grain back up.
Right.
In your
I've been
program.
playing with Lightroom like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun because like it's art. You can make it however you want it to. Right.
Right.
But yeah. ISO is just the sensitivity that you're turning your camera up to.
Yeah.
And how much light it will expose for.
Okay.
Within that triangle, right? So that's one part of it. Shutter speed, the speed at which the shutter is open and allowing light to hit the sensor is another part of it. And then aperture, how big or how small the lens will open up and let light in. So it's all about how long or how much light you're letting into to your sensor. Yeah. So
gotcha.
Which is fun.
Yeah. My oldest had he has to do a headshot every year or has to submit a headshot for his like soccer stuff. His soccer club or whatever requires it. Or actually, I think U.S. Youth Soccer requires it, so that they can identify and make sure players are who they say they are and all that jazz, if need be. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to actually do one up, and so I'm going to show this to you.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at that.
This was the original.
Nice.
So like, not. Hold on, let me throw my headphones back on. That's the original, and I'll.
That looks good.
Yeah, so decent, right?
Yeah.
I've got this stupid alarm system in the background, so I should have gone to Photoshop and edited that out. But
you've got some nice light from the windows. Yeah. You've got some hair light coming in from your.
Threw one of these up, because I've got pretty white light here, so I threw 3200 at 100%, like just from back here, and he was standing like right there by that post, and so then put a little bit of bokeh, and got it framed up, and then that's what I ended up submitting, and I was like, okay, and I've still got the alarm system there, but you know, again, it should have probably gone to Photoshop, but I don't know, dude. I'm having fun with editing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And Lightroom is pretty freaking powerful.
Yes.
So I don't know what I'm doing, man. But like whenever I shot the picture, it was like, I think I was at 1/100th. Got my focus right. Shutter speed 1/100th. It was at, I think it actually had 24 millimeter. And then I started at 1,000 on ISO, and I think I ended up shooting at 1250. But and basically I just went to 1,000 and just dialed it until it looked good. Yeah. And so I had to add some warmth to it. I like the warmer look. I like adding a little bit of color to the skin because he's got about the same skin tone as my arm. But it's, I don't know. I don't really understand it, and that drives me nuts. It's like my technical mind like wants to know why, right? Why, like, what does ISO stand for? And so it's like I need to understand all of the things and understand the knobs that I'm turning. But like you said, at the end of the day, it's like adjusting from a certain point. So I guess what I want to get to is having like a default setting. So like I have a pre-programmed default setting, and then I can adjust from there.
Just go quickly from there. Yeah.
Right. So, or maybe have multiple. I think I've got, let me see. We'll just pop this battery out. So I've got a program there.
Yeah.
And then there's, I believe that those two are things that I can adjust as well.
Custom.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so I think I can just have like an indoor and an outdoor.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or something like that. And then I've got the manual there, and I think I can adjust what I have on the manual as well. But anyways, I'm told that's a pretty decent camera. So
yeah, I think so. I've heard good things about it. I'm not a Canon shooter, but I have heard good things about it.
Yep.
So
let me pop the battery.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know, man. What advice do you have for me other than the dumb things that I've already asked you about?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that I have found is to shoot in like this P mode, programmable mode. So this, when you turn it on, it'll adjust if I remember correctly, it'll adjust the shutter speed and aperture on its own.
Okay.
So you don't have to mess with those. You are in charge of white balance, ISO, and all the other little like minuscule things. But those are the big things that you're in charge of, right?
Yeah.
So keeping it on that, and then figuring out like composition and focal length and stuff like that. That's where you kind of like gain those steps. And then once you become more comfortable with like, oh, this is what the shutter speed was during this photo, you can kind of remember like, oh, well, when I'm back in this situation, I'll just flip it back to this shutter speed, and you can kind of do more manual stuff. That's the way I've done it.
Yeah.
That being said, I started with a 1971 manual SLR camera that I had to like adjust everything manually.
Right.
And so that was a quick like shove into manual photography.
Like real knobs to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might be something
slick.
That might be something I need to go in and grab like a cheap old camera and just turn real knobs.
Yeah.
Can you get like old school film developed still?
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing? Like how far do you go?
There's a place in Garland that I usually go to.
Holy cow. It's like an hour from here.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. There's other places you can send it off. You can get like online subscriptions, and you buy 10 developments or whatever, and you send it off, and they'll send it back to you, type of thing. So,
dude, I've seen people are buying lenses that are they're supposed to emulate like a disposable camera.
Yep.
Like, why not just buy the disposable camera?
Yeah.
Like you're going to buy like a $50 lens, like, and that's not bad for a lens, but
sure,
you could buy an $8 disposable camera and get the same quality. So, or I mean, maybe not completely, but there's not a whole lot of knobs you can turn at that point. You're not adjusting an aperture. You're not, I don't know, man. It's interesting.
Well, it's interesting because like we've gotten to the point where this is like within the realm of like high-end video or photo cameras. This is I don't know, mid-level, I would say ish, camera. And it can do like everything and more than a camera could do 5 years ago.
Yeah.
A top of the line camera, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten to this point where like technology is over exceeding what we need it to do.
Yeah.
And so how do we make it different now? We kind of go backwards a little bit, right? Like we have to, I don't know, we have to almost rebel against the technology because we want things to look different. You know, we want things to have feeling. We want things to look real. We're getting to this age where everything is AI and everything is like,
oh my,
plastic and looks perfect. And, and I think people really, they want realness or whatever that real is, you know. People are desperately seeking realness,
dude.
But they want to feel like they're there. And so the disposable camera look is really popular right now, because when did you have those kind of pictures? It's when you're at a party, you're having fun, or like doing things, activities.
Nostalgia.
And you want that nostalgia, and you want to feel like it's real.
Yeah.
You know, because every picture you flip through a magazine, every picture you look at has been totally photoshopped.
Yeah.
Probably the models have had plastic surgery. Nothing looks like what you and I see in real life.
Yeah.
And so the only way to emulate that is to go back to a day and age and that technology where you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just disposable camera. You get it developed and you get the pictures.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And like, I haven't messed with Photoshop. Like, I've got Photoshop as part of my Adobe license. I don't think I'm going to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I really want to, like, editing, you know, what you can do in Lightroom is one thing. You're not really changing your subject at all.
Yeah.
You might be highlighting different things about your subject. You might be whitening teeth or something like that. But you're not really doing anything to really edit somebody's appearance.
Sure.
Right. And so I think, you know, it's like plastic surgery, man. It's, some of it's necessary and some of it's not, you know. It's like, I want the real thing, you know? And that's kind of, I think I just, have you watched the new Inside Out?
I have not.
Did you watch the first one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you remember the core memories?
Yeah.
And they go in, so in Inside Out, 2, and this may be a mild spoiler, but I'll tell you anyway. There's this part where, they've, you know, sent all these memories, core memories down, and these core memories, create this thing that comes into the little cabin where they're at, directing the cockpit, if you will. And it says, and it just repeats over and over again, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. And it's like this little girl's voice and not my voice, but, and it's just like her identity. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's a really good movie. I didn't have any issues. Kids enjoyed it.
Sure.
But you should definitely go check it out. But anyways, you just created a value for me, man. I value keeping my subject the way that it is. Way the subject is. Also, my subjects are probably just going to be the same 4 people over and over again. And not like you, but at the end of the day, it's like you can highlight reality without changing reality.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I do use Photoshop occasionally. Like, I'm not totally against Photoshop.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of goes back to the philosophy. Like, I value that realness.
Yeah.
You know, and so most of the time, I'm not using Photoshop. Occasionally, I'll need to if I want to edit out I took a picture of my car the other day.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to edit out a little piece of plastic or trash that was on the ground or something like that. You know, there's things like that are distracting to the photo.
It's like I should have edited out the security thing.
Well, you know, it's things like that it's useful for that kind of thing.
Right.
And especially for some of the business stuff that I do, I just have to.
Yeah.
You know, for the stuff that we're going for. Sometimes I have big groups of people that are not able to meet at the same time. So I have to just Photoshop different people into the same photo to make it work.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for it. And I think it also goes back to like, what is art, you know?
Yeah.
And what are you trying to portray and what are you trying to put across?
Yeah.
And I will say, like, mine and almost every Instagram page that's out there or Facebook page that's out there, it's curated, you know, like
absolutely.
Those are the positive memories that I want to share with other people.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily always display pain and suffering and like emotional breakdowns or like, my house is a mess or my week was awful, you know, type of thing.
Right.
But
you definitely don't want to be that guy. Like those people are the most annoying people. like, do you not have real friends?
Right.
Like if you don't, then let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But like, gosh, man, you don't need like 1,000 people to understand your emotional needs right now.
Yeah.
Like you need 5 people to care about your emotional needs.
Right.
But outside of those 5, like, come on, dude, like calm down. Like,
and I get where people want to like, hey, I'm suffering and this is something that's going on. But like, if that's all your feed is, then I think you're like, you need a therapist or a friend to like listen to you.
And I mean, some people don't, and that's a huge problem now, is that people don't have friendship.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
And that's a big problem with society right now, is that I think that a huge segment of society has forgotten how to be a friend partially because of the effects of social media. But like, you know, that's for your 5 close friends.
Yeah.
And not for the world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Interesting. That was a tangent I didn't expect to get on.
No, you're good. But yeah, I think I want people to understand that like things are curated and you have to take it all with a grain of salt.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy it, but not, I have to be like that person.
Right.
Because their life is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, their life is not perfect.
It used to be the magazine page, man.
Yeah.
But now it's not. Now it's the
Instagram page or whatever.
Gosh, man.
Reality TV.
Yeah.
Which is not real.
It's never real.
Yeah.
It's never real. We elected a reality TV star to be a president. So that was the thing that we did.
At least it wasn't Kim Kardashian or something. I should stop talking about politics, I guess.
No, dude. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I hate politics so much.
Yeah.
I hate politics so much.
Yeah.
Politics and
I feel like politics are fake too.
Oh yeah, everything's fake.
We want to believe that we are electing the people, but it's the votes of Congress and you know, when it comes down to it, how much does our vote count? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a libertarian.
Yeah.
And so like I get annoyed with libertarians that don't vote. Because it's like, yes, in all actuality, your vote is not going to elect the president.
Sure.
The Electoral College is going to elect the president. And like the impact of your vote is minuscule at best, right?
But those numbers count.
They count to an extent. But here's the thing is like, it's like Gary Johnson in 2016 was polling very, very high prior to the debates.
Right.
And then as the debates happened and he wasn't included, his polling numbers went down because he wasn't seen as a serious candidate. He had one blunder where he didn't know what Aleppo was, but 99% of Americans also didn't know what Aleppo was. And 99% of Americans can't point to Syria on a map and had no idea what was going on there. Yeah. And Gary Johnson didn't care because his foreign policy was stay out of it. Mm-hmm. And so it was like he was polling at a high enough number to have made an impact on the election. He didn't end up making an impact on the election. And I think it's because libertarians either voted for one of the 2 crap options that were out there and not our lesser crap option, right? Yeah. And the way presidential elections and Senate elections are set up, it's like you have to reach a certain percentage of the vote in every state to have automatic ballot access for the next election. And so if you fall under 5%, then you have to go through a long legal process and pay a whole lot of money just to obtain ballot access. And so when libertarians don't vote, when they could be voting for a libertarian, and I'm not saying vote for somebody you don't believe in, because I'm not voting libertarian this year. When they don't vote and they don't at least vote for the libertarian option, then the libertarian option is no longer on the ballot. And the same thing goes for all third parties. Yeah. It's like if if you believe in the values of this party and the candidate matches those values, vote for that candidate. I don't know. I'm a third party nut, so I'm probably also going to lose one of my 32 subscribers off of this video. But hey, it's reality. So
yeah, I think I would say, judging by the conversations that I've had with real people,
yeah,
that like a lot of America is very central.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we hear on TV is far right and far left.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of us probably end up in that camp, but because of what you're saying, we just don't end up with that option on the ballot. Yeah. And so we have to choose, one or the other. And so it just becomes a unfortunate situation. And then when you get to that point where, oh, well, we have this person in office, it's like, well, that's all we had to choose from,
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's tough.
It's tough. And
that's, again, going back to like, that's where these real conversations come into play. Like, you and I could probably debate pros and cons of, some of these people that we see on TV that are running for office.
Yeah.
And those are real conversations.
Yeah.
I can understand more about what you think and you can understand more about what I think. Right. And we can find a happy medium.
Right.
Whereas on TV, we're only hearing like angry stuff for 30 seconds and then there's no answer.
God forbid you get on Twitter or it depends now. It's like Twitter has gotten more conservative leaning and it's comical from that perspective. And I greatly enjoy it. And then like other social media is a little bit more left leaning. And so you get both perspectives, but I don't know, man. None of those people are, I don't know. I find that most people, I don't know about most, a lot of the people that speak out and share their religious points of view and their political points of view on social media aren't necessarily ready to have a conversation about it on social media.
Sure.
And so it just becomes I'm right media instead of social. So
that's 100% true.
Yeah.
It's all curated. Right?
Yeah. And I want to have a debate. I want to have a conversation. Sure. But it's like, how dare you challenge my thought? Right.
Yeah.
How dare you challenge my thought in front of my friends?
Right.
Right. All my friends are seeing this and you're challenging my thought and that degrades me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. There's some people that I'm like, maybe they're ready for a debate. And normally if I say anything, it's like, maybe this, you could be right, but maybe this.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyways, man, I think we've been going for a while here.
It's been good.
But yeah, dude, I appreciate you coming.
Hopefully I don't make you lose a bunch of followers.
Dude, if I lose one, then that's like 5% of my followers. So it's all good, man. I think I can make it up. But yeah, dude, I could throw your Instagram handle up and let people follow you if you'd like.
Sure.
But yeah, dude, I like what you do. Keep sending me coffee reels.
Yeah.
And you need to have.
You're one of my coffee friends.
Yeah, I'm one of your coffee friends.
Are you drinking coffee now? Dude,
so we're about to extend this thing.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So
yes or no, if that's all you need to do.
No, dude. So yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's a short answer. The long answer is, man, I got in a kick a few weeks back where I was like, all right, Red Bull. And
you were Celsius a few weeks ago, right?
A few months ago. Okay. And I got on coffee again.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I got really, really, really religious about my morning routine.
Yeah.
And it was going really, really well. And something threw me off. And then started drinking Red Bull. And then I started drinking 2 Red Bulls a day.
Okay.
And then I started drinking 3 Red Bulls a day.
And then your heart exploded.
Yeah, dude. Like quite literally about 4 weeks into 3 caffeines a day. There was like probably 3 consecutive days that I had either 2 Red Bulls and a coffee. And you know that the coffee that I drink is generally going to be 150 to 200 milligrams.
Yeah. What is Red Bull?
Red Bull, an 8-ounce Red Bull is only like It's under 100 milligrams.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I evidently have a low caffeine tolerance. I used to pound like when Red Bull first started getting big in the US, I was like 16, 17. Dude, I'd buy the box of Red Bull and just pound all 4 of them and then go to the lake and go swimming. And I can't swim. So that's, but Red Bull gives you wings. So
right.
who needs to be able to swim when you have wings?
That's right.
But anyway, so I was drinking 3 Red Bulls a day at minimum, or it would be 2 Red Bulls and a coffee, or a Red Bull and 2 coffees. And caffeine enhances like your dopamine receptors.
Yep.
So you feel dopamine more, and for a person with ADHD, that's hella addictive.
It's crazy.
And so like I was just like going into the office and just stapling myself to the wall because I was staying there all day long, right? Like there was one day, and like I struggle with anxiety too. After my ADHD diagnosis, and I understand what it is, it really, really went down.
Caffeine's real good for anxiety.
Yes, it is. And so most days there was no effective cortisol in my life at all because there was so much dopamine, which was wonderful. So I felt great. Felt like I was like 22. And I think that's a Taylor Swift song, isn't it?
Probably.
I don't know. I have no idea. My daughter would probably know. But the thing that happened was like I was like on back-to-back customer calls, and they were all quite intense. And so I got like that real strong tightness in my chest and shortness of breath, and I was like, crap. And then I felt terrible for like 5 days. And so I 2 Red Bulls the next day, 1 Red Bull the next day, and I've been on 1 Red Bull a day for the last probably week. And so I'm about to transition back to coffee. Coffee is a better caffeine.
Sure.
And Red Bull's got some other crap in it that
gives you wings.
Yeah, it gives you wings, and I don't need wings. So I'm taking a supplement to help with like cortisol, like stress, relaxation. Take on it Alpha Brain, to help with cognitive, and then I take on it New Mood, which helps with like stress management, and so like that, and breathing's good. Slowing down and not talking 100 miles an hour.
What is that?
Right. So anyways, I'm fighting through that right now, but I'm about to get back on a pour over a day. I went and bought beans like about 2 or 3 hours ago because I knew you were coming. And so I'm about to make you a pour over. You don't have to drink the whole thing.
It's been a while. I ran out of filters, and so I haven't had pour over in a while.
Holy crap. I don't know if I have filters. I hope I have filters. I think I have filters. I'll find out if I have filters or not. Okay. In fact, I think I know where they are. Like I literally haven't made coffee here in like a month or 2. So, and I just moved.
The itch.
Yeah, I moved all my coffee stuff to a new location. So I'm kind of between 2 locations. But yeah, I got some new beans from Lima, and they're
good stuff.
Natural process from Peru, 1,700 meter altitude. So should be like Peru to me. Is the closest thing outside of Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Burundi that can give you that natural fruitiness that you get out of those. So anyways, let's get off here and go make some coffee. Yeah. And then I can show you some other pictures. But yeah, hey, thanks, man, for hopping on.
Thank you. Anytime.